LOS and ALS time for you this pass with mid-sense. LOS 109er plus 21 plus 12. ALS coming around the corner 110 0735. Over. Roger out. Okay, if you'd like to look again, next pass we have a different set of coordinates based on the onboard T-57. These are echo decimal 3 and 4 decimal 8. I say again, echo decimal 3, 4 decimal 8. Same chart, over. Roger. Latitude plus 0 decimal 523. Longitude divided by 2, 11 decimal 710. Over. Roger. There we go. Roger, that's clear. You're not sure that's clear, but I think it's the same fellow. Many rebuzz.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Came in a little bit late today. Had a few technical difficulties. Hopefully nothing's too far off. I'm just grabbing a bottle of water here. Whew. It is hot in New York. Ah, man. Connor Sconnington. How's Clarinda doing, bud? She's good. How do you know Clarinda? Meow. How's it going, man? Yo, Pirate. How you doing? Okay, let me see. So, past few days I've been working on a lot of world building stuff in the game. So I haven't really been writing so much code in the code base, but I've been doing like a lot of planning and stuff for the story. But there are a few things that I want to get done in the engine in general, so I think I'm going to be focused on some of that today. Let me see if I got... Oh, my browser source is broken. Give me a second here. Window capture. There we go. All right. So yeah, there was a ticket that I had that I wanted to work on. Actually, I don't even know if there is a ticket for this. Basically, what I want to work on is, right now, there's no way of pausing the game or the engine at all. And I'm gonna be working on like more like demo stuff and trying to get the game into like a demoable state, and that's gonna be something that needs to exist, right? I need to be able to pause the game in order to make you know, like a menu system and all that, like once you're in the game. So I want to focus on that today, and then if I get that done, I'll probably try to pivot over to some juice stuff for the lander. Like I want to add some camera shake when you impact something, to make it really sell that you hit something. And then I also want, I think, make the lander flash a color once it impacts, just to like really sell that. But yeah, Pirate says I made me a Unity project with C#. I've got a start menu and a settings menu I'm debugging. I've also got some nice first-person movement going on. It's still riddled with bugs. LOL. That's awesome, dude. Unity, man. It's a good place to start. What kind of game are you working on? It's a first person, but like, what's the plan there? Or are you kind of just messing around with like a character controller, trying to see what you can get working there? Hat was bothering me. Okay. Cool. So let's take a look at the engine, right? So in Singularity, I have this core, right? core is kind of like, it's a pretty bad name, to be honest. But it's the core of the engine. It handles all like the ticks, it handles all like the service coordination, all that kind of stuff. The window setup. I'll probably end up splitting this out eventually so that everything only has like one job. But for now, it's all in one place. And so basically, if I want to pause the game, right, what I need to do is I need to set up a way for the engine to allow you to explicitly pause the physics, and like as part of that also pause the collision detection. Yeah. So, and then what I might also have to do, depending, is I might have to find a way of pausing delta time. I don't know if it's necessarily going to have to happen though, because if I like pause delta time, right, then any UI stuff that relies on delta time, like something that's like, you know, flickering a button state, it's going to freeze as well. So depending on how I want to implement the pause, I'll have to see if I might have to split delta time into two separate things. I might have to split, like, keep delta time as what it is, and just have it be like the thing that's tracking like game elapsed time, and then have a separate concept for like UI time. I don't think that that's how I'll have to go. I feel like I might be able to get away with just pausing physics and pausing entity updates and stuff like that though, so we'll see. So far it's just a main menu. I'm trying to get that fixed. After that, I'll probably just make something basic before I switch to making a proper game. Nice. Also, what game engine is your game made in? So I'm making my own. I wrote my own game engine. It's called Singularity. It's just built in C++. Originally this game started off as like an engine project. I just wanted to build an engine, and so I started building a game as an excuse to have a project to build alongside with the engine. But then I got really into the game. I don't know why Nightbot is being mean to you, Corbin. With paused physics, would it still let you pan the camera? That's the the camera's not physics based. It's just, it has its own, like, the render pipeline updates the camera position, which might be, it's kind of a weird flow, but it works for a 2D game. At least so far it's been working fine. But the render pipeline is controlling that, and the render pipeline wouldn't be getting paused because then we wouldn't see anything. Corbin, hi Totoro, yeah. And then Nightbot's being mean. Corbin, did it ban him? I hope it didn't. Nightbot might be on a power trip today. Let me see. I'll check Nightbot, my Nightbot settings. Commands. Okay, this is my, sorry, I'm just looking at my Nightbot settings here. Cancel for YouTube. Let me see. Nightbot shouldn't have the ability to ban anyone, I don't think, but we'll see. Just give me a second here. Yeah, that's a funny warning too, because the stream, yeah, right, it's all okay, so you're good, you're not banned. I'll have to check to make sure that Nightbot doesn't have permission to kick, because express caps, I don't care if, oh, it times out people for using excessive capital. Okay. All right, I just turned it off. It won't be mean to people talking in caps anymore. I like when people get excited. So, bad Nightbot. Yeah, okay. I think we're good. All right. So, yeah, what was I saying? I was saying with the pause physics, yeah, so the render pipeline is what's managing the camera right now. So it should be fine. Like, if we take a look, render pipeline, and then I think there's an update. Is there an update? Where do I update the camera? In here. Camera dot position. Camera CPP, and then set position. Okay, so let's see what's calling this. Okay, there's yeah, camera controller. Oh, the camera controller is based off of the current scene. That's interesting. Since the camera's like being updated by the current scene, you might be right. If I pause scene updates because of the pausing, then it would freeze the camera. However, I don't think pausing a scene is the right thing to do when we pause the game, because a scene can contain the UI, right? That's being rendered. And the UI should continue to work, right? Because then otherwise we can't have a pause screen. So I don't think we'll pause the scene. I think we'll, at the very minimum, I think what we need to do is find a way of pausing the physics. Let me see. So I want to take a look at inside of, is it core actually, or is it Singularity? In here, where is it? So I have, this is my update loop, right? It's inside my SDL app iterate. And so we just get the frame, we tick, this core tick literally just updates the current frame and then updates delta time. So this is what I was saying, is we might actually need to change the current tick and delta time logic depending on how this ends up working. But we wouldn't want to pause input manager, right? Because then that would pause mouse movement. Scene stack manager, that's what actually manages the scenes. My scenes in the engine are stackable in terms of like you can have multiple scenes active at the same time. So like I could in theory have a single scene for my main menu and a separate scene for my game itself, and then put the main menu scene on top. If I wanted to structure things that way, that's not how I've currently gone about structuring things. But for the main menu, that actually might work, because for like normal game UI, like the lander screen, like the, you know, the screens that you're seeing when you're in the cockpit view, that's directly managed by the main like game scene, and the EVA UI is also going to be managed by the game scene. But a main menu scene might not be a bad idea. In that case, though, either way, I wouldn't want to pause the entire scene stack manager, because then that would pause all scenes. And then I do have this is scene active, right? I can deactivate a scene, and that prevents it from receiving ticks. And any entity in that scene will not receive ticks as well. So I guess what I could do, I have this system already in place for deactivating a scene. Let me see. Scene stack manager. What have I got in there? I have active scenes. I can check if a scene is active. But how does this actually, this looks at the active scenes set. But I don't actually have a way of putting a scene or deactivating a scene, it looks like. Active scenes. I want to see refresh active scene cache. Okay. It looks like I have a scene active as long as it's in the stack. Is that correct? I have a scene active as long as it's in the stack. Yeah, I think my active scene thing is literally just here so that if I ever wanted to check if a scene was active, I wouldn't have to go like through checking the like an entire O of N like search through a hash map or through the stack that contains all the scenes. I think I just put it into a set, and then that way if I ever wanted to query if a scene was active from somewhere in the game, I'd be able to do that. But I don't think I'm actually using that anywhere yet, so but any UI handlers that mutate game mechanics state need to be blocked during pause, or else you would pause and work in the console, which is supposed to be part of the sim, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's why this is kind of tricky. Well, so it's like we need two different layers of this, right? Like there's the engine layer where the engine needs to provide capability for the game to pause certain things, right? Like the physics is handled by the engine and then the collision is handled by the engine. But the UI, like the game knows, or it's the game's job to track whether it is paused or not, right? And the game can update the engine like functionalities to trigger certain things. So if the game knows that it's paused, the game should also be in charge of controlling like its own UI from being accessible when it shouldn't be, if that makes sense. Because it's a very like blurry area, right? I can't just say pause everything, right? And I can't just say pause the entire scene, because the scene, you know, can contain both UI elements and all that. But I can pause certain things from being updated. Like for example, the particle engine can be paused, the collision engine can be paused, the physics engine can be paused. Those all are like strictly game related, right? And then the scheduler, this is like my event queue. That wouldn't be paused because the UI might feasibly be using the scheduler. Spatial index can be paused. Entity rendering shouldn't like be turned off. And then the pulse stuff. Pulse is all the UI stuff. That should be fine to keep on. Yeah, so I think my short list right now is I definitely need to pause particle engine, collision engine, physics engine. Level of detail manager doesn't need to be paused. Because all the other stuff will be paused because of it. Sign question: should you allow hotkeys or UI clicks to queue up actions while pause? Example: pause, exit vehicle to EVA, unpause, queued exit process. Yeah, I think so. I think if a player unpauses and then like presses the button to EVA, that immediately starts the EVA, and then you can pause it at any time and it should freeze the actual game, right? And then when you unpause the game, the player should come out automatically. I think by doing, I think what I'll need to do is have a good way of pausing entity updates, right? That's a big one. So what I can do is I can have a flag for the entity manager and effectively set that to pause updates as well, but not to pause rendering. No, I mean the other way. Press to exit EVA while paused. I don't think so, because like the game's paused, right? So you shouldn't be able to like perform game actions while it's paused, you know, because then that's not a real pause, you know. But even so, like let's say we did want to support that, that's more of a like game level question than an engine level question, you know, because like the game can then decide like, okay, if the game wants to allow for that, then it would just not pause certain parts of the engine. But I'm sure this is going to be messy. Yeah. Like, part of me wants to have a call on the core module, right? On the, where is it? On core? That allows the, like, the game to call like core dot what's it called, dot pause or whatever, right? And then and then the engine will like pause all the necessary things, but that's not super granular because like I'm sure like nobody else is gonna ever use this engine, so it probably doesn't matter. But like I still like building things in a way where they're like theoretically correct. And like I would want the freedom to be able to say, yeah, you can pause each subsystem individually. Because then that gives you more control, you know? And then the game itself could have like its own like pause function that controls everything that needs to get paused in the engine. I'm saying pause a lot. Like the word is starting to not mean anything anymore. Okay. So we won't remove the scene from being an active scene. But I think we'll allow the entity manager to be paused. I think that's a fair. Totoro demands you say pause. That's good. I like that. Okay. I don't know. Is pause like? Yeah. I'll just call this is paused. Start that off as false. Jesus. Okay. Do I want this? Like, is paused doesn't like because it prevents updating, but it doesn't prevent rendering, and I don't want it to like, let's say 6 months from now, I don't want to think like, okay, is paused is representative of pausing the entire entity manager, you know? Yeah. Maybe like prevent updates? No. Enable. I don't know. Naming is hard. Prevent entity updates. Maybe. For now. I can come back to it if I don't like it. I'm gonna sit with that for a bit. Okay. Now I need a function that disables is frozen. Use the term frozen to indicate a game mechanic or subsystem is locked in place but can be read or rendered. That's not bad. Actually, I like that. Yeah. I'll just call it frozen. Yeah, I think I used frozen somewhere else. So that's not a bad idea. Okay. Entity manager. Yeah, and then it'll just be freeze or unfreeze. So static. Jeez. Static void freeze. Static void unfreeze. And then static void is frozen. Okay. Oh, not void. Cool. Okay. And then I'll just go ahead and implement those. Freeze. And then it literally just frozen. It's true. I don't know why I can't type today. Oh, I have to do get instance since this is a singleton. Okay. And then this is okay, I definitely want to change that to capital F. Unfreeze. Okay. And then it is froze. Cool. Now, what I can do here, honestly, like, scene stack manager, I should probably just move this into my entity manager. Because I don't think my entity manager has an update function. And, like, this is kind of leaking out into here. It doesn't, like, the main, like, engine loop doesn't need to care about the specifics of how entity manager works. Let me see. No update, right? Yeah, no update. Does it have a render? Why do I have these like this? Like that maybe I just had it like that a long time ago and I just never changed it, but yeah, that should definitely have an update and a render. So static void update and then static void render. Okay. And we can go here. Put that pretty high up in here. Maybe after the entity registering and unregistering. So yeah, I guess right here. So void singularity entity manager update. And then we'll take this chunk right here. Yeah, that's gonna complain a little bit. Let me clean that up just because it looks terrible here. Okay. Now we need log manager. That's good. Scene stack manager. Pull that in. And then that's good right there. Okay. Cool. All right. Now we need to do basically the same thing for the render. Whoa. Where did I go? And then I'll just delete inside. Oh, and then let me make sure I don't forget entity manager and then call update here. Yeah. Entity manager render. Okay. Cool. And then environment manager needs to be pulled in. Good. All right. Cool. So now that that's more self-contained, I don't even need, like, I don't even think I don't need this because at least for now, yeah. For now, I think I'm only ever gonna check is frozen in here in the update loop. So if frozen, just return. No entity updates happen. Get instance. Oh, I need to change this to get instance as well. Actually, this is not, yeah, cool. Just clean things up a tiny bit here. Okay. Yeah, all right, that should work. Okay, so now entity updates should be pausable. I guess I can go ahead and test that, to be honest. Let me see. In my main game scene, do I have, I think I have, yeah, input behaviors. So by default, I'm using the lander input behavior, which sets up a bunch of controls. So I'm going to set up a control for the letter P. So if I press the letter P, I'm gonna have it pause the game. So, or pause entities specifically. Nothing else is gonna pause. Okay. Singularity, entity manager, freeze. That should allow me to play around with things for now. And in theory, what should happen is the lander should like freeze in place. No, that's physics. I think it'll. Let me see what even happens in my lander update loop. Lander CPP. Find the update. I calculate the mass. I calculate the moment of inertia. I determine the altitude. So my altitude should pause. Like I shouldn't see any changes in altitude. Yeah, that's basically it. Just like a handful of little things. Okay, let's try it. So we'll do a build. We'll see what happens. Boy. How's everybody? Where have you been this week? Anybody do anything exciting? My wife and I went to Reptile Expo out in Long Island this past Saturday, and they had a bunch of like really cool stuff. And I got like my wife got some like moth cocoons. I think she got a Luna moth and then some other moth that's like starts to see. It's like largest moth cocoon in the US, I think. I don't know if it's the US or the world, but the cocoon was huge. And I got this like praying mantis cocoon thing. I don't know if, but basically it's an Utheka, right? And it has like 200 praying mantises in there, and I'm gonna like release them obviously when they hatch. But it's gonna be pretty cool. I'm excited for that. This could be a useful place to run an LLM over your code base. Ask if it finds any places you need to freeze, unfreeze that you missed after you get proof of concept, potentially for idle state. Yeah, maybe. I try not to, like, I really like the whole hand coding thing, and I really like the process of debugging stuff and allowing stuff to be broken, you know? Because then it gives me like a really deep understanding of how everything works in my code base, you know? So I don't know. I would consider it if I'm like super stuck or if I have issues, but I think like taking it piecemeal here should work fine for me, you know? I think that I don't remember changing a lot of stuff like code-wise, but I guess it like I was working on the level editor last time and I finished fixing up the level editor. I can actually show you guys that in a second here because I don't think I actually ended up showing it working. Not that it's anything like super impressive or anything like that, but I don't think I've actually shown it before. So I'll do that. But the like map editing works in a very rudimentary way. Like I can create like colliders, and right now every collider that you create, pretty much, not every single one, but like there's a toggle, but pretty much every collider that you create is just automatically terrain. It needs to be like fleshed out and stuff, but then there's also tile edit mode. What I want to do, like, because I'm gonna have this flow a lot, right, where I'm gonna be building maps that are like, let's say 3 kilometers wide, right, like pretty huge, right? And the entire terrain, I am doing it with just like polygons, you know. I'm like placing the lines. There's like a set of rules that I have to follow for how I draw my polygons that will make it line up with my artwork that I've been working on, so that because like I can only I've done all of the artwork, the tiling for how the terrain looks in 10-degree increments, because like if I was gonna try to draw a variation for every possible degree, I would have to draw 360 tiles just to have one tile for every possible degree of inclination. And then I wouldn't want just one tile per, like one type of tile per degree, you know, you want some variation. So then like if I wanted like 3 types, then 360, you know, times 3. I can't do that math in my head because I'm not that smart, but that's what, like 720, 1080, 1080 tiles. That's a lot. So what I've done is I've locked it to 10-degree increments. So the terrain like all the lines in the terrain have to be like some increment of 10 degrees, and then that allows me to do only 36 tiles per every 10 degrees of inclination, and then I can do 3 of each, and then that allows me to have effectively 96. That's the right answer. 960. No, Jesus, I'm so bad at math. Yeah, it's 108, I think, tiles. Anyway, looks like the build finished. Let's run that. Oh, there we go. I need to change my source here. There we go. Okay. Sometimes when I restart OBS, like if a certain thing is not on when I turn on OBS, then it doesn't capture that window. So like because the game wasn't turned on before I turned on OBS, I had to like reselect the window. It's really annoying. Okay, so lander's working. I'm gonna press P. Let's look. So this is working right now. I hit P. Boom. Altitude update stopped. This is because of render. And then I won't die because dying is tied to the update, but the physics doesn't stop, and that makes sense. And the particles still get released. Input is still being processed. That makes sense. I need, like, what I need to do is have like a pause state in the game as well, obviously. But for what I'm aiming at, which was just disabling entity updates, that worked. Problem is, like, there are places where the entities get updated separate from the entity manager, because each entity has its own update hook, update callback, and that's what that entity manager update call does. Is it just processes those callbacks, but like entities can be updated by the physics and stuff like that, you know, which I have to actually also separate. Like, it should be the rigid body, like I should have a separate rigid body that an entity can own, and then the physics should update the rigid bodies. But again, like when I was building the engine, it was just like I was, you know, trying to keep things simple, and realistically an entity, at least in my game, is always going to have a rigid body, except for the times when it doesn't. So I guess maybe it does make sense to separate it out, and I probably will eventually. But for now, the physics, like, and collision loops update entities to change their positions instead of updating the rigid bodies, because rigid bodies don't exist in my engine. Yeah. So what I need to do is I need to go into physics engine. Physics engine? Yeah. And then I basically have to do the same thing. I need to add a frozen variable. Did I? Entity manager. In entity manager, did I make that a static variable? No. Okay, good. I didn't want it to be a static variable. Okay, bool frozen. Yeah. And then I need static void freeze and static void unfreeze. trying to think. Maybe do I want an is frozen? I don't know. I don't think I want an is frozen because it's not. I could probably add it later if I find it to be useful, but like I at least for my game, I don't see myself querying whether a specific and like if I want to turn on the physics engine, I'll just call unfreeze on it, you know, and if it's already unfrozen, that no harm, no foul, right? Saves me a call anyway, so I think it's cheap enough that I don't need to have a frozen check. Okay. Unless I discover a specific use case where I need it, then I'll add it. Okay, and then so physics engine CPP. After the update, whoops. So the update in here is pretty long. I have process collision queue. Yeah, this one's a pretty big one. I'll put, I'll just put the freeze stuff here. Sorry if you guys can hear my cats. They're fighting back there. Totoro likes to bother Lucy. But also, like, Lucy is, she's very, what's the word? She's sensitive. Like, a lot of times Totoro just wants to go cuddle with her. And Totoro will lie down next to her. And it'll piss Lucy off. And she'll just get up and start, like, hissing at her. It's very, very sad to see. And then Totoro gets all confused and sad. Okay. And then same thing here if frozen return. Boom. Honestly, I'll grab instance up here. If instance not frozen, boom. Okay. So that'll pause the physics engine, which should prevent entities from moving, which should also prevent. It won't prevent collisions from occurring. So like if something's already touching, it's not gonna disable those collisions. Which that's the next thing I need to do as well is have the collision engine do the same thing. Frozen. Oh, this is public. My bad. Okay. There, I have that. And then same thing, static void freeze. Okay. Cool. And then collision engine CPP. Get instance frozen equals true. Oops. And then same thing, I'm gonna get the instance first. Okay. Cool. Now in my lander input behavior, I'll just expand this a little bit to call freeze on all of those. Physics engine, freeze. Collision engine, freeze. I think that should be all of them that I've added so far. Particles will still show up, and input will still happen. So like that'll have to be a, I don't know, because like I could on pause I could switch to a like paused input behavior off of the lander input behavior, and then switch back to the previous input behavior when we unpause. This is what I'm talking about, though. It's like one of those things where it's like game specific, you know? Okay. So, P. Hey, would you look at that? The game froze. Nothing's happening. The stars are moving, and that's because the scene's not frozen. Physics froze, though. UI is still working, and I can switch here, and I can still use the UI. So, like, I could perform a command, and I can do a scan. That's funny. Scan auto down. But this is good because it lets me, like as a user of the engine, I can allow, like, the engine basically lets you customize what you want to be disabled or paused when you're running the game. I need to make sure that I want to have this just toggle. That's what I want. I don't have like a game controller. Do I? Actually, I have a game manager here. And it does like literally fucking nothing. It just exists. I think I had more stuff in here. And then, yeah. So I think what I could do is I could have a pause function or toggle pause function in my game manager. And then the game manager would actually run these freezes that need to happen here. So static void toggle pause, right? And then go into the C++ for it. Void game manager toggle pause. And then I would effectively take this stuff, put it in here. And then obviously I have to pull those in, so. And then in here, I would do game manager toggle pause. And then basically what I'll do is I'll have this be, well, like what the function name suggests, I'll have it be a toggle instead of just freezing it right now. Just that way I can pause and unpause. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Now, as part of my toggle pause, I need to keep track of whether the game is paused. And so I'll do in game manager, just add another private variable. Yeah, we'll paused, false, right? Starts off as false. Then what I'll do is I'll add a is paused for the entire game. And then anywhere in the code and for the actual game where I want to disable something, if the game is paused, I'll just check the game manager. Yeah, I think that's a pretty clean way to do it. And then, actually, sorry, I just have to return paused here. And this should be a bool. I'm off my game today. And then paused equals not paused. So it just flips the boolean. I need to get the instance here, actually. This is a singleton. Get instance paused. Getting the instance is actually like really cheap, so I'm not worried about doing it here twice, especially since this is like a one-off function. Now if paused, so if we just flipped it to be paused, actually, you know what, if I'm gonna do it this many times, I'm just gonna, I'll just assign it. Because I was gonna do it again. There. There we go. Now, if instance.paused, then I can grab these, move them in here, boom. And you know me, I like early returns, so I'll just early return out here. Otherwise, we'll just call the equivalent unfreeze here. For all of these. Cool. Now, let me go make sure I hook this up to my lander input behavior. Yeah, I have that hooked up to toggle pause, save, and build. All right, try it. I have like a splinter or something in my finger. I don't know what happened. I went bowling today with my family. It was my nephew's birthday, and the bowling alley had like a pool, not like for swimming, like pool for like billiards. And I don't know, maybe I got like I can't even see a splinter, but it feels like a splinter. Maybe I got it from the pool stick or something. Don't know. Definitely wasn't from the bowling ball, because I did not bowl. I'm not good at bowling. The vibes were immaculate though. Okay. So we're falling and then pause. That's good. Game actually pauses and then unpause. And nothing seems like it gets weird with the physics. You know what is looking weird though? The particle system. The unfreeze doesn't look like it actually worked, because I should have died there. For what the entity manager unfreeze doesn't look like it worked, because my particles got all weird there. Entity manager. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Well, that'll do it. That's what happens when you don't flip your booleans. All right, that's an easy fix. Now the other thing I need to do is disable the particle system, because particles should not continue to update, right, and like move. Like if I'll show you. Like if I start firing particles right now and then I pause the game, the particles will continue moving. That shouldn't happen. Let's see. So there's some particles. I pause. Yeah, you see, like the particles continue to update. Look at that. Oh, what? I'm able to, you see that? I'm like charging up my speed. Oh, I know why that's happening. I know why that's happening. Watch, look, this is gonna be so funny when I unpause it. I just go flying. Yeah. It's because the lander, it has its own control input, and those controls are like directly modifying lander state. And it's not checking if it's paused. So I think what I want to do is when we trigger the pause, I want to switch off of the lander input behavior onto a like paused input behavior or something like that. I think that'll be pretty clean. But entities, I think entities work now. I'll do the lander stuff in a second. What I want to do is I want to make sure that I don't forget to set up a pause or a freeze for the particle system. So let's see, that's in Singularity. I just want to, so I have input managers polling, I have entity manager updating, particle engine updating, and so then inside of particle engine, see, the thing is, let's see how this update works, because my particles, if I'm not mistaken, my particles are time-based, like delta time-based, or no, elapsed time-based, meaning I can have particles that get spawned, I could pause the game, and then I could wait, let's say 2 minutes, and I unpause the game, and then the particles will disappear immediately because enough time passed that the particles should disappear, according to like that logic, because they're time-based. Oh, Satrack, sorry about that. Thank you for the follow, man. Appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. Okay, so let me just confirm my assumption. I'm pretty sure that that's how the particle engine works, but yeah, you see, I have this expiration time here. Effect expiration time. What I could do is in core, let me see, core CPP, I have an elapsed time thing. And that's based off of the current tick. And basically I'm just figuring out, okay, since we started the game, how much time has passed. What I could do, let me see, how do I calculate my delta time? It's just get instance.delta time. And then, but delta time is based off of the current tick minus the previous tick. So I can't just pause ticking, because that'll turn off it'll fuck up my delta time stuff. And then that'll mess up the UI. This is interesting. See, this is where I'm starting to feel like, okay, I almost need 2 different delta times, but it feels weird to say that. Like, it feels weird to, there's no way I need 2 separate delta times, you know what I mean? Like, that feels icky and weird. What I could do is damn. Because like what I'm thinking right now is like if I stop ticking, right? Well, delta time okay, so the way that delta time works right now is I take the current tick and I subtract it from the previous tick, right? Now, then I update, or that's after I update the current tick, right? What I could do is, damn. I'm thinking like I feel like there's some magic I can do here. Like if I update previous tick to be based off of... No, I need to store it. It needs to be based off of what the current tick is, or the current tick was. Oh, well, okay. When I can... Instead of doing this, instead of setting previous tick first, I can set... No, I can't do that. Can't... Yeah, no, I can't. I was gonna say I could swap previous tick to be set after, like this, and then previous tick would be correct for the next frame. But that's weird because then previous tick and current tick would be the same for this frame. But do I use previous tick for anything else? Because I have a function called get previous tick, and that isn't used anywhere. So maybe what I want to do is have previous tick be internal, and then have it set for the next frame, so it's correct on the next frame, and then delta time will be... So basically this is what I'm thinking. I can do this like this, right? Actually what I'll do is, I don't know, this tick. It's weird because it's like I'm avoiding calling it current tick only because of the fact that I might be pausing current tick. I don't know, this almost feels like an anti-pattern, but like here I'm thinking I can set this tick, right? And then previous tick to this tick. And then it'll be this tick minus previous tick. And then that would free me up to have current tick. Like, I would do something like if not frozen here, I would do current tick equals this tick. You know what I mean? And then anything that uses the current tick in the engine would effectively get paused, but delta time wouldn't get paused. Delta time would still tell us how much time passed between frames. And then elapsed time, which is a measure of like how much game time has passed, would freeze. Do I want to do that? Is that what I want to do? Because that would allow me to, like here, right? This is based off of elapsed time. Like how much time has passed in world or in game. I wonder, where else am I using get elapsed time? I'm using that in my burning effect, my camera controller to apply camera shake. Which, that's actually good, because I would want camera shake to freeze during a pause. It would, I mean, entities wouldn't get updated anyway. The lander collision stuff, that's fine. I have some UI stuff, it looks like, that's based off of elapsed time. Damn. This is tricky. shell screen. Oh, even my scheduler. My scheduler update stuff is based off of elapsed time, so I can't do that either. Because that is, I mean, it's a timer-based system. This is actually really tricky. So let me undo that. So, okay. I can't just pause elapsed time, but my particle engine bases particle lifetimes off of elapsed time. So how can I pause particle expirations without pausing literally everything else in the engine? Like, if I pause the scheduler, that'll freeze up a whole bunch of systems that rely on, like, you know, scheduling, like time-based messages and stuff like that. The more that I do this, the more I feel like, okay, I need like a game tick. But that's what current tick is supposed to be. Well, I guess not. I guess it's not supposed to be that. I feel like I'm using the same concept to support. I'm using the same thing to support two different concepts right now. Like, I have my current tick supporting both game state ticking and engine state ticking, which is not what I want. I think what I need to do is separate it. I think I need a game engine tick, and then that'll be like elapsed time or whatever the fuck, and then but would that like, no, that doesn't, because like, okay, then like, let's say for some reason I wanted to do particle effects in the UI. Not that I necessarily would, but like, how should that behave? If I wanna have a particle effect on the UI when I click something and I just pop a bunch of particles, the particle system shouldn't be paused. So how do I implement this? I feel like this is maybe more of just weirdness with my particle engine. Like, it made sense when I was building it because, like, I didn't really have to think about how particles would behave in the UI versus the game. But like, I almost feel like I need expiration modes for particle effects. Huh. If I add a field onto my particle effect, and damn. You know what? I think I need to give this some more thought. So I'm not going to change anything about the particle system for now. I will pause the particle system update loop, but what I could do is I could allow the particle engine to be frozen, right? But then when it's when it freezes, I track the time at which it was frozen, like the tick at which it was frozen, and then I track the time at which it unfreezes, and then I update on the next, like the next update loop, I add that amount to every single particle's expiration time. And then that'll just extend the expiration times for every particle. I think that solves the problem. And then if I don't want particle effects frozen for the UI, what I could do eventually is I could have a flag on the effect and basically say like freezable or something. And if an effect is not freezable, then I won't add to the expiration time. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's do that. So particle engine, it needs a frozen state. So we'll add bool frozen false. And then I need a freeze static void freeze static void unfreeze. Okay. Yeah. And then what I'll do is here in the particle engine CPP, I need to go. I have all these spawns. Trigger once. Okay, here's my update. Void singularity particle engine please. And then get instance frozen false. True rather. And then same thing, unfreeze, and then that becomes false. Now here, when it becomes frozen, what I also need is a freeze start time. Let me see, what does... Yeah, it's a double, I remember. Freeze start time. It can be that, it doesn't matter. And then what I'll do, actually, yeah, it's fine. Get instance, freeze, start time. Is gonna be core, get elapsed time. Okay. And then, when I unfreeze, what I'll do is total double freeze duration. Jesus, I cannot type. And then it'll get core elapsed time, and we'll subtract get instance freeze start time. And then let me see, I have this underscore update. Basically what I want to do is I want to go through every single effect after the unfreeze. Let me get the instance here, actually. It'll just particle engine. Okay. Instance frozen. All right. Now, for each effect in the instance, we'll just do instance.expiration, or sorry, effect dot expiration time plus equals freeze duration. Yeah, I think that actually should work pretty well. Now I'll go to game manager. And I'll also pause the particle engine. Freeze. And then unfreeze. Here. I think that'll work. Try a build. Alright. I'll have to look up how other engines do this at some point. Because this is actually a really interesting problem. Maybe I'm just like really dumb and I'm thinking of it in a terrible way. And maybe there's like a really obvious answer here that I'm not thinking of. But it actually feels pretty tricky. Okay. Got the game running. Cool. That's all good. That's all good. And then now I'm gonna fire some particles. They exist. I pause. Oh no. The particles are... Oh, right. I know why. I set the particle engine freeze and unfreeze, but I need to actually respect that. So in here, if it's frozen, I'll return. Yeah. Oh, got myself a little worried there. So I was like, I know I set the freeze. All right. Oh, I was gonna show the level editor. I'm gonna show that right after this. I forgot about that. All right, let's get some particles going. We start flipping and pause. Particles are frozen. This looks good, right? The particles are not disappearing. Now, when I unpause, the particles should not immediately disappear if I did this correct. No! 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 Ah, okay. All right, why did that happen? Why did that happen? Unfreeze. Effect expiration time plus freeze duration. Am I crazy? When we press freeze, we set the freeze start time. And then oh, you know why? I'm changing the effect expiration time, but each particle can have an expiration time. Let me see, particle effect. And then I have this remove dead particles thing. Yeah. And then I have my particles sorted by expiration. That should still remain valid, because they'll all get shifted the same amount. And then I have, yeah, particle comparator, and that looks at, I think that's probably in my CPP. Particle, yeah, there it is, expiration time. So what I need is some way when the effect, does the effect track its particles? I think it does it. Let me see, particle engine. I don't remember. It's been a while since I did this. So in the update call, we go and we call effect remove dead particles, which then goes and, yeah, it looks like the effect tracks its particles. Cool. So in that case, what I can do is for auto particle, or in effect dot particles sorted by expiration. And this is, I think this is a min heap. No, it's just a vector. I used a vector for that. What? Why did I use a vector for that? No. I need to change that. That's so inefficient. That's actually really bad. Because oh, that's so bad. Because every time I add a particle, I'm reorganizing the vector. Why did I use a vector for that? Wow. I need to make a ticket, because I'm gonna forget, and this is actually a important thing. Update. Just create a blank issue. Okay. Currently, the particle system stores all the particles for an effect in a vector and sorts by expiration time. Then when we create a new particle, we resort the entire list vector. Should use min heap instead. Because then I'm literally doing an O of n log n. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure min heap. Let me see, min heap time complexity for inserts is what I want. Yeah. So worst case, it's going to be O of log n. Average case is O of 1, right? That's a significant difference, especially if you have a lot of particles. So average case O of 1. Oops. I guess what we should compare. Worst cases. Okay, then this is going to be a engine polish. Honestly, it's not like a bug, but it's a bug, you know. Cool. All right, that exists now. Now that's captured. I've been trying to be pretty good about capturing work as I do it, because, or like as I discover it, because I forget stuff. I'm pretty forgetful. Okay, so then for each particle, expiration time is gonna plus equal freeze duration. Yeah. So I'm doing n log n, no, n squared here for particle update. I mean, honestly, it's just O of n across all particles. It's not the best, but the expiration time has to be updated. Hopefully, like even if you have 1,000 particles, like it's not that big of a deal. You just do a single pass through all of them. They would be getting passed through anyway during the render. So, but I think that should solve that problem where they just instantly disappeared. Okay. So we're going to start up some particles and pause. Okay. I'm going to wait a few seconds. It's going to give enough time for them to expire and unpause. Look at that. That was beautiful. Try that again. Paused. and unpause. Looks good. Pause. I feel like I'm controlling time. Look at that little piece of debris right there. Boom. Okay, cool. This seems to work not too badly. The next thing I need to do is fix the fact that I can charge the lander up. Look at this. I'm about to yeet myself. Oh, and all the particles spawn at the same time. That looked pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That looked like a power-up charge, and oh, like a firework effect. Why did that look like that? That firework effect. I'm curious. Because, like, they're all being created at the unpause. Weird. They're, like, living a really long time. Those particles should not live that long. I think there's something weird with my... It's because the particles are being yeah, I think what's happening is when I pause and I'm holding W right now, the particles are being created during the pause, right? And then when I unpause, however long that pause was, I am adding that amount of life to the particles, which doesn't make sense because they're not being like actually added to the screen until after I unpause them. So it gives them like an unusually long lifespan. It looks pretty cool though. I like when it starts. Yeah, look at like the firework thing. It looks pretty cool. But honestly, that's that is that a problem with the actual particle engine? If the particle engine is frozen, then why would... Oh, because trigger once. Okay, I know why. Trigger once immediately spawns particles. No, is that even what's happening? Let me see. Lander, CPP. And then on burn, is it? Burn engine. Okay. And now, is it animate engine thrust? Is that where I'm doing that? No, that's not it. Okay, emit thruster particles, yes. Now, emit flame particles. And what does that do? Yeah, it calls trigger once. Okay. It calls trigger once, and it passes in a min and a max particle lifetime, right? Now, I'm spawning a particle. And I auto... Oh. I auto expire the effect. I think that should still hold. Because even if it's like -1 from the elapsed time when the particle effect gets added in, and then I add however long it was paused. But if I'm triggering it after the pause has occurred, so I pause the game, and then I trigger a particle effect 5 seconds after the pause started. Then the elapsed time is going to be 4 seconds after the pause started because it's -1. And then when, let's say I unpause 2 seconds after that, so the entire pause lasted 7 seconds. Elapsed time is 4 seconds, like the particle expiration time is 4 seconds after the pause started, and then I add the total pause time, which is 7 seconds, to that. So here, let me write this out. So I have 5. So then it's 4 plus 7, and I'll have 13, right? Or no, sorry, 11. So the particles will expire at time 11. We start at, let's say we start at time 0, right? Then 5 seconds passed, and we pause. Okay. Then, or sorry, we pause at 0. 5 seconds pass, and we trigger a particle effect, right? Then expiration time is 4 seconds. 2 more seconds pass, meaning now the time is 7. Like, it's been 7 seconds since we paused, but also time is 7. And then we unpause. Yeah, what's going to happen is the expiration time will then get put into the future for single-use particle effects. Damn, this is tricky. This is a tricky one. Okay. Yeah, because like the very obvious case here is like, all right, let's say I trigger a particle right as I unpause, but it's been paused for 10 seconds, right? Then the entire 10 seconds of the pause get added to the expiration time afterwards, you know? So then the expiration time would be placed into the future. This is fine for regular effects, right? For effects that are like running and are not trigger once effects. But if an effect is like a trigger once, since a trigger once effect automatically spawns its own particles versus like add effect just creates a new effect, you know? A trigger once just spawns some particles right away because it immediately expires. It's an interesting one. Like I think the real problem is that the expiration time is being added to the effect. Like, does that problem still matter for the actual particles? Like, okay, we spawned particles during a pause. Yeah, that is, I mean, that is a problem. It's the same thing. It's the exact same problem. Like, particles spawned while the particle engine is frozen should not, maybe, I think what we need to do is basically just queue them. Like, if you, is this a valid state though? Like, is it valid to try to trigger particles while the particle engine is frozen? That's the question. Because like what I could do, right? I could just say you can't call, like if you try to call trigger once while the particle engine is frozen, nothing happens, right? Or I could queue it up. But if I queue it up, then what happens is when you unpause, any particles that were queued up will all spawn at the same time, which is also weird. I think maybe what we want is, like, freeze means you can't write, right? And if the particle engine is frozen, you cannot trigger particles. I think that's fair. I think that's a very fair trade-off. I think that's what I'll do. Yeah, because it's like that's pretty weird, right? Like triggering particles during a freeze. That's basically like, it's like, damn, I don't know, because like, what if we do want, because what I'm thinking about is like, in the case of like the physics engine, like let's say for some reason while the game is paused, I want to be able to change the velocity of some object, right? Like as a creator of a game, right? If the engine didn't let me change the velocity of an object while the game was frozen, that would feel weirdly restrictive. Because it's like, why can't I just set the velocity, you know, and then it gets updated, or it applies, or whatever takes effect when the physics engine unfreezes. I don't know. This is a tricky one. Like for my game, it doesn't make sense, right? Like I wouldn't, for Descent Horizon, I don't want to trigger, like I wouldn't want to trigger particles while the game is frozen, or like while the particle engine is frozen. I wouldn't do that, right? I would make sure the particle engine is not frozen, because like what does, like the whole point of triggering particles is so that you see something on the screen, right? I don't know. But then like, what if, like, I'm also trying to think, like if someone built like an event bus, right? And they have a particle event that comes in and like, hey, all right, like this event tells the particle engine to trigger, you know, to trigger some particles, right? And then the player presses pause, and that pause event gets like processed before the event like propagates and comes in and like actually gets used to trigger the particles. Then what would happen is they would try to call the particle engine. The particle engine would be frozen, and then it would effectively reject creating those particles. Whereas if I just allow it to queue up the particles, then when they unfreeze, the particles will actually show up. And then I feel like that way it's more, what's the word? It's more like, I'm trying to, it's more open-ended, you know, like it's a better flow, right? And then that gives like whatever person is actually using the engine, again, it's me, right? Like I'm not expecting anybody to actually use this engine, but like if it allows the user of the engine to be smart with how they actually write the code, and then like worst case scenario, they could decide, okay, like I don't want to queue up these particles, you know, and they can hold it themselves or just ignore it or whatever. Yeah. Let me see, what does spawn particles do here? Spawn particle from source effect lifetime range. What I could do is, I think this is actually this might be clever. What I could do is, if the particle engine is frozen, then the expiration time, instead of being set to core elapsed time, it'll be set to the freeze time. Like when the game got paused, right? Because like effectively what we're trying to do is we're trying to say like, okay, time is paused, right? So like if time freezes at the time when the particle engine freezes, then the correct expiration time, if we want it to be immediately expired, should be the second before the pause happened. And then if we do the same thing in spawn particles, then we're saying, hey, these particles were spawned at the exact time when the game was frozen. And then even if we add that total time that the game was frozen after, when we do that unfreeze, that should give us the exact perfect behavior. It'll allow you to queue up particles while the particle engine is frozen without me actually needing to implement any kind of queuing system. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. Okay, so here, up here, instead of saying if instance frozen, what I'll do is down here, I say if instance frozen, right? And if it is, then the effect expiration time instead will be the instance dot, what was it? It's like instance freeze start time. There you go. Instance freeze start time -1 because it needs to already be expired. I could use a ternary here. Why not? Instance frozen. Yo, cool ass stream setup. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I tried getting the stream like graphics to look similar to like the terminals and stuff in the game. Once I get all like the stuff implemented, I appreciate that. Mike Hawk, welcome to the stream, Mike Hawk. I like that. I like that name. Do you by any chance know Barry McCockner? Okay, so what we'll do here is instance, yeah, freeze start time, and then this actually, I want to wrap this in a parens because that, yeah, I think that's clean. So can I put this on one line? I mean, this fits on one line for my normal editor size, for my normal text size, just not for stream. I blow up my text like 50,000 times bigger so that you guys can see it all pretty. It's probably not. I hope it's big enough for you guys, but it's probably not. But I can't bear to make it any bigger because I'll kill myself. This text is so massive for me. Yeah, Barry's a friend. Nice, man. Tell him I said hi. Okay. Now in spawn particles, I have to be careful here because spawn particles. What else uses spawn particles? Nothing. Okay, is it just the instant? No, it's not. You see, on update, does that matter? Actually, it doesn't matter. So sorry. What I'm thinking is the effect, a non-instantly expiring particle effect also uses the spawn particles function to spawn its particles over time. And I'm trying to think, like, if I add that check for the particle engine being frozen in there as well, and then have the spawn time or the expiration time kind of hacked there, is that going to like fuck up the normal like effects? But it won't, because the update call for particle engine won't get called while the particle engine's frozen, so it'll never reach that ternary case in there. So I think what I'm good to do that in here. So here I do spawn particle from, There is spawn particle from, I think it's this one. Yeah. This is the one that lifetime. Yeah. Damn, this is a little more tricky than I thought it was going to be because the particle entity constructor sets the particle expiration time based off of the particle's lifetime and the current elapsed time. Which means I can't... Yeah, I can't... Fuck. I don't have access to the particle engine, like, freeze time stuff in here. I could pass an override, right? For lifetime. Or not for lifetime, sorry, for expiration time. Why do I pass it in as lifetime? Like, why don't I just pass in the expiration time? Lifetime. Because I could very easily just say based, because this is the place where the particle entities are created. I could very easily just be like, yeah, I'm gonna pass in the expiration time instead. I think that maybe that's what I'll do, honestly. Because that's like the lifetime of the particle immediately is getting changed into expiration time. Where was that? Am I crazy? Did I? Okay, yeah, expiration time. Do I use lifetime for anything else in here? Lifetime? Yeah, see, I store it. I don't use it. Yeah, okay. I'll do expiration time instead. And then I'll remove lifetime entirely. Maybe this is like, maybe I had this like this before. Maybe I was doing something with lifetime. And then it's possible that I updated my particle engine code and then I've never removed the lifetime stuff. Okay. Cool. And then I don't need lifetime in here. We're good. All right. Now, here, I'll make a temporary for this. Double particle expiration. That's gonna be based off of. I don't think I used the instance in here anywhere, right? But yeah, so I think I need to get the instance in here. Particle engine instance equals instance. How often do you dump a commit in Git during your coding sessions as a way of making a checkpoint you can go back to in case you don't like a direction you tried? I don't commit unless I've gotten to a point where I have something that I'm happy with. Because then I don't like having like really messy like commit trees. I know I can just revert stuff, but I don't like making commits and then revert commits to undo things. So what I'll do is I will usually for a specific feature, like I'm not super good at doing this for personal projects because I don't know, it's just me, you know. But usually what I'll do is I'll make a separate branch for the specific feature that I'm working on, and then I'll just head in a certain direction, right? And there are certain checkpoints for which you get to a point where you're like, I'm definitely keeping this thing, right? Like, for example, for the pausing stuff, like I know for a fact I'm gonna keep the particle effect stuff. I know for a fact I'm gonna keep the collision engine pausing, the physics engine pausing, and all that, right? the thing is, like, I could have committed that, and I could do that now, right? But I'm also not changing anything else in those files right now. So I'm fine to leave it uncommitted. Now, if I was gonna go and do some stuff in the collision engine that builds on top of what I already have that I want to keep, then I would commit at least those files, right? Like I could just partially commit what I have, right? Like I have all these changes here, and then I can just say, like, I definitely want to commit anything that's in, you know, physics, anything that's in, like, yeah, like physics or just Singularity, like these files. And then I could keep the other stuff uncommitted until I'm ready to, like, commit to it, you know? But, like, I try not to make a commit unless I have, like, a major checkpoint that I would feel upset about if I lost. And I feel like I've only changed, like, a handful of lines of code. And, like, if I somehow lost this entire session, like, the majority of this session has been just me, like, thinking through things, you know? And so, like, to rewrite all that code would probably take, like, I don't know, like 5 minutes. It's really not much. So yeah, I guess it's based off of how much I feel like I've done that I want to keep. Yeah, that's how I would phrase it. Okay, so particle expiration time. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, instance. So if the instance is frozen, so actually instance dot frozen. Then I want to use instance dot freeze start time. Otherwise, I want to use core elapsed time. And then I'm just trying to think about how I want to format this code. What I want to do is I want to add lifetime to this, right? Like this. But this is like ugly formatting. It doesn't fit on one line. I can do lifetime plus, and then like it really bothers me when code isn't formatted nicely. Okay, and then yeah, if the instance is frozen, I'll do that on the next line there, nice and simple. So lifetime plus, if the instance is frozen, then we'll use the freeze start time. Otherwise, we'll use the elapsed time, which is like the current time. And then here, particle expiration time. Boom. Yeah. I like that. And then what should happen then is when I go here and I like re-add the time based on the freeze duration, I think that because I set the particle spawn time to the beginning of that freeze period, it should pop it forward the correct amount, if that makes sense. Let's try building that. I'll check it out. Oh, particle lifetime. Okay, look like damn, I didn't check enough. Oh, particle lifetime. I definitely use that. Fuck. I mean, can I store both? Yeah, I can store both. Particle, yeah. Because I use the particle lifetime to know, like, for certain effects, like for a flame burning effect, right? Like, how much of the particle's lifetime has elapsed so that I know how close it is to expiring, and based off of that I can lerp different colors and stuff. Yeah. Because like what I'm doing here, for example, right? I'm checking, okay, like how much time has passed since, like how much time is left until the particle expires, and I'm subtracting that from the current time. Sorry, I'm dividing that by the particle lifetime to figure out what percentage of the particle's lifetime is remaining. Okay, let's see. So, like, I guess it does make sense that the particle lifetime is... It should be its own thing. But I also need... I did already have expiration time stored, but the way that it was done before is it was, like, perfectly synced with lifetime based off of current time. No, this is fine, this is fine. Because, like, lifetime represents, okay, how long is this particle supposed to live, right? And then expiration time is just like, at what point does this particle actually die, right? Like, those are related, but they're not necessarily tied together. So then, yeah, double lifetime. So I'll pass in. I don't think I create particles anywhere else except for that one area. Okay, so here, was that before or after particle entity? And then, yeah, here. I need to do what the fuck did I not? I swear particle entity. Oh, right, okay. I added it to the header and not to the implementation. Okay, so lifetime before expiration time. Okay. Cool. And then lifetime. Just propagate that. Cool. And then lifetime. Yeah. Okay, I think that should work. Okay, it looks like that build succeeded, and we can go and try this. Not that do I even have a good way of testing this? Yeah, okay. Because what I was doing before is I was charging up my laser. I was firing my laser. Okay, so right now I am queuing up a bunch of particles. They should all spawn, like, as soon as I unpause, they will, yeah. But look at that, their lifetimes were not, like, artificially extended. It looked like the lander just shat itself. Oh, shit. Damn, okay. Can I pause in this moment right here? Alright, something about that didn't look right. Game is still paused. Okay, so I can pause right here, and then fire a bunch of particles. They all come out at the same time. Yeah, so the particle effect looks correct, at least. Okay, pause, unpause, pause, unpause, pause. I'm like spamming P to pause and unpause. I want to see if I notice any weirdness, you know. Okay. Right before impact, and I pause. Yeah, so the camera still moves. That's expected right now because the camera has its own behavior. And then, yeah. I mean, like, for the way that the game should behave, right? Like, now the engine pauses correctly, but there are parts of the game that don't pause correctly. You know, like here, like that, the engine paused correctly in that spot. The game, though, is still going through its loop, and it's not respecting the pause state, which, I mean, makes sense because it's the tick loop is still going and all that, and we want that, right? We want the actual game to stay responsive. And then we respawn. But what should happen there, honestly, is the game needs to respect, like, okay, it's paused. Like, yeah, the player died, but, like, the game is paused. So we shouldn't be doing anything. Like, we should... Effectively, like, what would happen there is, like, I would want to be able to show a pause menu, right? And then, well, you'll have your little explosion there paused, you know? But I think this is fine for now. What I need to do, one of the next things I would want to do is, as I'm firing the engine, right? What I need to do is change it so that when you pause, a few things happen. The camera behavior switches to be like a static camera behavior, so that the camera doesn't move. So that the camera doesn't move on its own. And then the other thing I need to do is the lander input, or the input behavior, the input controller needs to switch to a bare bones input controller that maybe only listens to menu state. I would have to think about that a little bit. And then, is that it? Is that it? Engine. Those are the two main, and then the UI behavior doesn't need to be affected when the pause happens. Like, the game would need to change the UI behavior to show like a pause screen, but wouldn't really matter. Nobody watches you, bum, ha ha ha. Fair, dude. I mean, if that's how you feel, I don't know what to tell you. I got 7 people here dedicating their time hanging out with me, so. But if you're gonna cloud up my chat, man, I'm gonna have to kick you out of here. It's not too fun. Anyway, let's see. So do I want to? I guess I'll go and I'll take a look at the lander now and see lander CPP. Burn engine. Do it like. Wow, get out of here, Samosa. Alex is a smart day. Smart. You have nothing better to do with your life. Yeah, I mean, some people, dude. It is what it is, man. People troll, you know. They be trolling. We do a little trolling. Okay, let me see. Where are we? I need to figure out. Okay, the game manager, right? When we trigger the pause, I need to figure out what's the current input behavior, what is the current camera behavior, and I need to store those so that they get restored when we unpause. And now you see, now we're not even working on like any what's it called? We're not working on engine pausing stuff anymore. Now this is like the actual game. Okay, so can I can't even actually get the input behavior though. This is gonna be a tricky one. Because, like, okay, let's say for input behavior, right? Input manager? No, it's input controller, right? I can set the active behavior, right? But I can't Oh, I do have a. I have a way of getting the current. No, I don't. I store the current behavior, but I can't check what type it is. Let me see it. Maybe I can do that. What I'm thinking is I'm gonna search this up. C++. Get type a variable. Is that what? It's like I'm doing something similar, but because this will give me the type ID, but like I can't use the type ID to initialize, right? Can I C++ initialize from type ID? Can I do that? Can I initialize from a type? No, I can't. Yeah. Problem is I don't want to create a mapping. All right, like because what I'm doing, right, is I have a, when I set an active behavior, I have a current behavior, right? Let me get rid of these messages. Like, I just cleaned out my entire chat by accident. Whatever. Can I undo that? It's a little annoying. Okay. Because what I'm doing, right, is I set the active behavior, right? And when I set the active behavior, what I take in is a reference, right? Or like not even a reference. I take in it's templatized. So I'm taking in a type name directly, and then I'm initializing an instance of that type, right? I use make unique. Now, I'm wondering because what I need to do is I need to basically extract out what type of behavior is stored inside of current behavior, right? I don't need input behavior. I need to know, is it a lander input behavior, right? Or is it a, I need to know the child class, so I can store a reference to that, so that I can then reassign it later. Damn. And I don't think I can do that without making a map. Compile time mapping. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Can objects be created based on type info? Yeah, you see, this is... That's painful. That is painful. Because I really like the architecture that I have here, right? Where I can just say, like, where was it? Input control, like, let me see, input controller set active behavior, right? And then I can just like that. Like that's so nice, right? Because then up until now, I literally have not had to have a factor. I didn't want to have a mapping of like some enum that then points to like instantiating 50 input behaviors the exact same way, because they all get instantiated the same way. And like this pattern lets me circumvent that. But now for the pause behavior, I basically have to have like a pattern, a factory pattern, where it relies on enums. That really sucks. I mean, I can do a minimal amount. Can I do that? Because I'm thinking, like, not necessarily here, but let's say I can store the current type ID. So let me see, how do I get the type ID again? Didn't I have somewhere in my behavior controller has is current behavior instance of, yeah. Okay, never mind. That's not what I needed. Yeah, so I'm thinking like I can get the type ID, right? So type ID of, let's say, input controller get. So I don't even have a way of getting current behavior from input controller, at least. But let's say that returned. No, that doesn't even do what I want. I need to see, okay, is there in C++, can I get the get type ID from pointer? To get the actual type info, you must do reference to pointer. Okay, but I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, as long as I dereference it, I can do it. So what I'm thinking is I do this would give me the unique pointer. If I have the, like, I'm just gonna pseudocode here for a second. I'll say, like, let's say I have previous input right? Let's say I have something like that. Then later on, when I want to restore that input behavior, what I could do is I could say, now this is where I don't like this, but it allows me to keep this yucky shit in the game manager instead of having to have a bunch of yucky shit all over the place. So I could do prev input behavior type, and then I can do basically, like, let's say I did type ID of lander input behavior, right? And then if it is, then I could do, you know, input controller set active behavior, right? Lander input. Jesus. Lander behavior, right? I think that should work, right? It like, and I know how I'd have to have like a branch like this for every possible input behavior though, which fucking sucks. I don't like that. But like, really, what's my alternative? It's like maintaining a map and then just having this code get generated by a macro. I still end up having that code. It's just not me. You know, it's not me maintaining it, but it's still, I would still have a macro doing it. It's just, I can see this being the source of bugs later. Like if I add a new input behavior and then the user pauses while that input behavior is active, and then they unpause, and I didn't add that here, then it will not return to the correct previous input behavior, you know? Lander behavior. That's painful. I don't know. I don't know. Is it, I feel like maybe just like the simplicity of it is the price to pay, right? Like I can write a macro to do this. I don't know. I could also do it in such a way that like every time a input behavior is set, it could go into game manager and add a function This actually might be not bad. Okay. When we pause the game, we take the current behavior and transfer control of the current behavior to the game manager temporarily. Have it own it, right? We're not gonna destroy the current behavior. We keep it existing. And then when we unpause, we move it back into the controller. And then I don't have to do any type checking that way. And it will work no matter how many behaviors I add, and I don't have to add any mapping. Let me think about that for a second. I'm trying to think if there's any better way of doing this, because like I also have lambdas, right? Like that's a tool that I have at my disposal. In theory, I'm thinking in theory I could like have a lambda set up and stored that gets run to restore the current behavior, but I would still need some way of figuring out what the current behavior type is and then instantiating it. So that doesn't work. Let me see, because input behavior doesn't use behavior controller. I want to see how behavior controller like stores the current behavior. It just has a unique pointer. Yeah, I think what I need to do, I think that approach of moving it out, transferring that ownership of that unique pointer to the game manager temporarily during the pause, I think that's the move. I would just need to make sure I create a new set active behavior, like an overload for it maybe, which takes in an already initialized behavior, and it skips all this crap here. Does that? I don't think that even does what I want, because like for the input behavior at least, I would want it to unregister all of its like control subscriptions, because like the input behavior, it subscribes to key presses for specific keys. So if I move that to and have the game manager own it, that doesn't actually unsubscribe anything. It still exists, and all those callbacks still exist. That doesn't prevent, yeah, that doesn't actually do what I want. Fuck. Now, no, I was gonna say I could have like a flag on the behavior to effectively like, and this would only be for the input behavior, because the other behaviors don't matter because they're based off of an update loop, and the input behavior is a special case because it has to tie into like the input polling, which works a little bit differently, and it doesn't have its own dedicated like update call. So for like regular anything that's like derived from the behavior controller, that flow that I mentioned could work because its update call would never get run. So that would totally work. Now, yeah, it's just the input like the input behavior that this doesn't work for. But whatever pattern I choose should work for all of the behaviors, realistically. Like, I don't want to have one pattern for most of the behaviors and then have a special pattern just for the input. Because, again, I still have the same problem where, like, I might forget, you know, if I add an input behavior, I might forget to add it to that, like, mapping. Huh. I mean, I guess that's where that lambda thing might work. Like, what if I... No. Because I was gonna say, like, okay, like, then I could use a lambda to effectively trigger the creation of a behavior as a callback. Can I do that? Like, okay, what if I do it like proactively, right? So, I mean, this is where we get into the realm of like maybe things start being a little bit more spaghetti than I would want it to be. But just I'm thinking out loud here. What if when I set active behavior, I do something like game manager dot on restore behavior, right? And then I pass in, because I have T behavior in here, right? So I could do like literally just this. I could do a lambda, non-capturing, because I would need a capturing lambda, but I only need to capture depths. And then I would do something like this, where I can just do set active behavior, and then I would pass in T behavior, and then pass in depths, like just as a theoretical approach here. It's a little messy, right? Because now behavior controller communicates with game manager. It's not ideal. But it prevents me from having to maintain a list in the game manager and have a mapping of every single like type ID to class name, so that just so I could initialize something, you know? Yeah. I don't know. These are both like this is not an engine thing. Like the behavior controller is part of my game specific code. The game manager is a major management entity in the game. I'm trying to think about like what my exposure surface here is, like how bad really is it? Because the game manager is going to be interacting with the behavior controllers, right? What I could do, this is a little bit weird. What I could do, and this will prevent me from having to actually store anything on the behavior controller. I could have every behavior controller store a so my thought process here is I can have every behavior controller store a, like, effectively, like, set this onto itself. So basically when we set an active behavior, we also put a restore behavior callback, which would allow you to, if you ever wanted to restore that that same behavior. But it can't be here. I can't do it when I'm setting a new active behavior, because then that'll override the previous active behavior. You know what I mean? And then I can't do it based off of what the actual previous one is, because again, I don't have the type name here. Or like I won't have the behavior class for the previous one. I lose it once it's been initialized, or once we're out of this templated function. And then that's the other thing too, is even if I was to go the game manager route, right, where this did set this on the game manager, right, like let's say it did set that on the game manager, well then when the game manager sets the active behavior to be something temporary, like let's say, I don't know, pause menu behavior, right, then that would also go do the same code, and it would set the restore behavior to be the same thing. I need, like, I don't know. I just really don't want to maintain a mapping in my game manager if I can think of a way to do it without it. Set active behavior. The thing that's coming to mind right now is I'm thinking I could have this set active behavior function take in an optional parameter that defaults to true, which is basically says like save as restorable or whatever, something like that. It doesn't, like, the actual verbiage there doesn't matter that much, but save as restorable. And then if that's true, then it'll override the on restore behavior. And if it's false, then it'll keep it, like it will prevent it from overriding it. So then if I go into like a pause behavior, I would have the like restore or update restore behavior set to false, and it wouldn't override it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that might be like kind of a clean flow. It's a little complicated. It's not like the clearest thing. I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm literally right now I'm choosing between code clarity and like more, the code will be clearer and easier to reason about if I just maintain this mapping in my game manager However, it'll be more annoying to maintain because every time I add a new input behavior, I'm going to have to remember to add it to the game manager. Versus I can do this automatic thing where it'll figure it out on its own, but then if I ever have like a weird bug, it'll be a little bit harder to trace. But not that much harder. Not that much harder. Huh. Maybe that's what I want to do. I think that's elegant enough, honestly. So maybe I do something like after the dependencies, I can have a bool, right? Update previous update, I don't know, update restorable behavior, and then have that default to true, right? Now, if update restorable behavior, then I'm not going to put it on the game manager. I'll keep it on the behavior controller. On restore behavior, yeah. And then what I would basically do is if the instance is paused, I would, let's say for the input controller, which doesn't even derive from this class, but just as an example, I would do set active behavior. I would say something like pause menu behavior, right? Let's say I don't pass any dependencies, and then I pass in false, so then it will not change the restore behavior on the behavior on the input controller. And then down here, all I would have to do is input controller restore previous behavior. Like that's pretty clean. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty clean. It's a little weird, but I think it's the cost here is basically I'm storing an extra lambda on every behavior. But like, yeah, the lambda is just storing the dependencies, which is usually just some pointers and a reference to the class for the behavior and a reference to this function. It's not a lot. I'll have at most, like, let's say even if I had 10 behavior controllers, 10 lambdas stored in memory, that's not that bad. That's for the fact that I'm able to eliminate an entire class of bugs guaranteed by doing it this way. I think that's an okay trade-off. I think that's what I'll do. So in the behavior controller, I'll store that privately. I'll do a function. I'll do this is going to be a void function. It's going to not take any parameters. And then do I want to I'll just call it restore behavior callback. I think that's clear. Restore behavior callback. And we will default it to an empty lambda because I don't want to ever call it and have it not be there and then bomb something out. Now here we'll say restore behavior callback. Invalid use instance. Cool. Oh, I have an extra. That should be good. Yeah. And then now I need to add a restore previous behavior function. And then do I need to change clear active behavior? If I clear active behavior, yeah, I'll do instance dot restore behavior callback, and then I'll make sure that it's just an empty lambda once again. And then restore previous behavior. And all that needs to do is call get instance. Derived get instance. Dot restore behavior callback. Yeah. Now, the input controller does not derive from behavior controller, so this doesn't really matter. But I can follow the exact same pattern. I'm just gonna copy and paste this code. Input controller. Yeah. Restore behavior callback. And then where was that? Up here. If update restorable behavior, same thing. I think I probably want to update input controller to derive from the input, like the behavior controller class at some point, but I think I just haven't done it because I hadn't touched it since I created that generic class. But and then also this does have an on behavior exit. Which complicates things a little bit. Okay, bool update restorable behavior. Again, that defaults to true. Now, same thing. I think on exit should just be a null pointer. I don't want to do anything fancy there. This doesn't work because there's no such thing as pause menu behavior, because I was just using it as an example. This fucking AI streamer thing, the AI viewer thing is so annoying. It's like every stream I have, that thing pops in here. Okay. Restore. Yeah. So, oh, but I haven't made a restore previous behavior yet on there. Input. Yep. Boom. I think that's clean. Okay. So look, that'll work then. Now what I'll do is I will, to test this, I'm gonna create a new input behavior. Or I have a disabled input behavior, which does nothing. Maybe I do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I do want to, let me see, because lander input behavior, I'm gonna set up one control subscription in disabled input behavior, and that's just gonna allow me to turn the like to toggle the pause back off. Just let me see how I did this here. So I set up a list of bindings. Yeah. Okay, and then yeah. This is, do I never I set up a bunch of control bindings, right? But then do I never remove them? Lander input behavior. Oh, because it's an input behavior. I think what I do is that's another thing that's special about the input behaviors is, yeah, I automatically unsubscribe all the behavior, all the control subscriptions. Okay, that makes sense. So that's good. That actually is, that's actually, yeah, I think I did that specifically so that I would never have a situation where I accidentally forgot to unsubscribe from input events, because that can be really weird. Hey Kashri, how's it going, man? Welcome to the stream. Let me see. I'll grab, honestly, I'll grab this whole thing and then I'll just cut the part that I want. I feel too lazy to actually disabled input behavior. Oops. Okay. Yeah. Input manager control binding. Okay. And then I just literally delete like all of these except for P. Pause. Don't need any of that. Game manager toggle pause. Corbin says, sorry I'm being quiet. I've been using this time as a co-work opportunity and I'm heavily hammering away on my own game. Doing agentic coding, but I've written like 5 pages of good specs today. I'm super productive when you inspired me to work on my game. Dude, yeah, I'm happy to have you here. You know, we're vibing. You do your thing, man. How is your game coming along? Okay, let's see. On enter, control subscriptions. Cool. Yeah, so what this should do, Jesus, my cats. So then what I can do here is I can say disabled input behavior. Yeah. So what happens is when we pause, we'll switch over to this disabled input behavior, which should prevent us from doing any other input entry. Like, you know, I shouldn't be able to use WASD or any of that stuff. And then when I press P again, what should happen is it'll restore the previous behavior, which means it will go back to whatever behavior I had before I paused the game. Let's see. I'm mostly transitioning into polishing game mechanics rather than core engine functionality. The engine is fine, just a lot of mapping ancient 1990s functionality into the browser. Yeah, dude, I feel that. Well, that's exciting though. Polishing stuff is nice. Like, once you get the engine stable, that's a good feeling, you know. But yeah, 1990s. Back when I was a wee lad, the 90s. It's a bit of a longer build, I guess, just because I changed input behaviors stuff, or like behaviors in general. Oh, I'm tired. I'm a tired turtle. Okay, there we go. Build's done. We can run it. So what should happen is now when I pause, if I try to use WASD or any keys from the previous input behavior, like lander behavior, they should not do anything. So we'll see. So, okay, I pause, I press W, nothing is happening. I promise I'm not lying. I know you guys can't see this, but I'm holding W and nothing is happening. But my mouse can still move. My mouse is not tied to the input behavior. It's like a whole separate system. But like my keyboard entry is doing literally nothing. And then when I press P again to unpause, hey, I get my controls back. Sick. I'm so happy I found a good solution for that. That feels like, that actually feels like a pretty sick solution. I didn't have to fuck around with all the type shit. That's awesome. I'm so happy. Very impressive. Thank you, man. Yeah, that was... I had to get creative for that one. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. I think I'm... Fuck, I keep forgetting to show the level editor. Let me do that right now. I keep remembering it, and then... I'm telling you, I have like the worst memory. I think so much in the moment that like my brain just commits nothing to memory. I'm building the level editor now. I'll show that, but I think I'm gonna start calling it here probably over the next few minutes, because I think that's like for pause functionality, just making it actually work. I think we're good. I need to actually add like a pause menu and all that crap, but I don't need that right now. I just wanted to actually get the pause functionality working, you know. But yeah, the level editor, it still needs more work. Like it exists. I can level edit, you know, but it's not like I can't place entities down, right? Right now, all my entities, they get placed down, like the fabricator or anything else. I'm physically like writing the code in the game engine, or not in the game, in the game code to like place them in specific places, which that's obviously not the way that I should be doing it. I want to be able to just specify in the map file for the game, like, hey, like, you know, the fabricator belongs here, and then have the game just initialize it that way. But I don't have a entity editing mode, if you will, in my level editor. I launched the level editor, but it's one of those things again where OBS doesn't capture it. Okay, so I have this is the level manager. It obviously needs a shit ton of work, but it exists, you know. This is the entire map right now for the game. The part that we've been playing a lot has been like this one little area here. This is where like usually the fabricator is, where I'm landing. So like this kind of just gives you like a scale of what the map size roughly is. This is roughly, I'm pretty sure, this is not like the final map or anything. It's just like a test playground map. This is roughly 3 kilometers across, or it should be, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I can zoom in and out. It's got like a little grid system here. I can go and like, let's say I want to like take a look at a specific tile. I can go and shift command click on it, and it'll give me some information about where it is. I could delete that tile if I want to. I can go and grab another one. There's work that I need to do here for like showing the name of the type of tile, because remember I was saying that the tiles have different inclinations. I think this is the inclination that works for here. And then I can change the Z index, so you see as I'm scrolling, the Z index here changes. Let me put that back there. and it has like pixel snapping, so I can never accidentally place a tile in the wrong alignment. And then, oh, the collider edit mode. So, because right now by default you're in tile edit mode, and I can import a tile set. So like, let's say I wanted to, for some reason, use, I don't know, what tile sheet. Trying to find a decent one. This needs a scroll. Like that's one of the things that I need to update. But yeah, like the inventory tile sheet. So now if I wanted to, for some reason, I could grab one of these little microchip things and just put it in the map somewhere as a tile, and it would show up there, you know. But then I can also switch into collider edit mode just by tapping a button, and then that just shows me like the shape of the colliders. And now I can actually, like, let's say I want to figure out, like, okay, like, let me see this specific collider. It gives me like, okay, how many vertices does it have? It doesn't really get drawn like this. Like the whole thing is one polygon, but then like every individual line segment gets created as a separate collider and then batched and like spaced in the like spatial grid so that we don't tank performance or anything like that. But like for level editing, it's easier to just have it be like a solid polygon, you know. But then I can literally go and say I want to create a new polygon here, and then this is where you see like I have snap to angle and snap to unit length. So I snap to angle, if it's on, I don't know, it might be a little hard to notice, but it will only snap to 10-degree increments, right? And snap to unit length, it's also hard to see at like a big scale, but snap to unit length also means that the line has to be the length of a single unit, which is 1 meter in this game. So that way I can never have a line segment that cannot be filled in by a tile or like a set of tiles. So like this line segment, I can guaranteed fill it with 3 tiles, right? Or like right here, I can guaranteed fill it with some tiles. The line segment will never be longer than how many tiles could fit there, which is really nice for like authoring stuff. Well, what I want to add is I want to add some ability to, actually I've never, yeah, there you go. I knew that was gonna happen. If I don't close the polygon, it like crashes. Oh, first look at the level editor. You could always expand it later if folks like it, right? Yeah, I could. I don't know if I'm going to release this as like something that comes with the game. I guess I'll see how people feel about it, honestly. Because it's a story game, you know, it's narrative driven. There's like a very specific timeline of events and stuff like that. And so like the level editor is for me right now to just build the actual content for the game. That being said, like I'm not opposed to like if people wanted to make their own like obstacle courses and shit. Like I feel like that could be really cool, you know. And like as part of the game, I want to have a like infinite descent mode. Basically, it's just like how long can you survive repeated descents without crashing, and they just get like harder and harder and stuff like that. It's kind of like an arcade mode, you know. So it's not like the story mode is gonna be the only way to play the game. So I feel like what could be cool is we could have like I could release this and then have people build like obstacle courses if they're interested, you know, and then people can try to fly through them. That would be a cool thing for the community, especially for, you know, people who are into that fantasy of like flying a lander through dangerous terrain and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility, something to think about, you know. What I noticed though, I think I fucked something up in my level editor because my game didn't seem to have the latest like, let me see. I'm gonna switch into collider edit mode. I'm gonna create a new collider. I'm gonna close it, right? And then I'm gonna save, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna delete this collider. Like, notice how right now there's this one island here, and then there's the one big like chunk for the landmass for the test level. I'm gonna run the game, and I feel like when I was playing right now, I feel like I saw like the map was wrong. It was from like another time when I was doing some testing of the level editor. Let me see, scan, auto down. Yeah, you see, like this, just from the LiDAR scan, I can tell it's wrong. I think it's saving to the wrong place when I'm saving my edits, because this has a huge chunk in here. Interesting. Let me actually see if I can fix that real quick. Level editor. Go in here. And then it's in the main map edit scene. And then I think I have an on save. Yeah, on save. Yeah, that's why. It's getting path resolver asset when it should. Oh, you know what? No. No. Path resolver. Selected map file. Because path resolver, what it does is it gets the assets from the game path, or like from the directory path. I think what I think I need here, the map file path, because I'm pretty sure when I open the map loader load, the selected map file, it should be based off of the editor workspace location. Let me see. Selected map file. Is that from the file picker then? Am I doing that in the file picker? Let me see, is it in here? Because I should be using the editor workspace to get the map file. Yeah, file picker scene. Okay. Does this find matching files? Is that find matching files? Recursive. Okay, so yeah, editor workspace asset. Yeah. So it'll give back a list of, okay. It'll give back a list of files relative to the editor workspace location, which would be the actual game code. But what that means then is map file path just can be selected map file. It doesn't need to, yeah. Selected map file. Okay, I think that's what I want. And then, oh, did I fuck something up? Yeah. Same thing here, selected map file. Now, yeah, okay. I think that will work. I need to build the editor real quick. And then give it a test. But I think that should do what I want. Oh. Okay, and then edit. Act 1, colliders. Just create a collider here, save that real quick. And then the only other thing I have to do is, I forget what the command is for it. DH extensions, build assets, SB assets, there you go. Basically it's just to sync my assets over. I don't have it syncing assets by default on every build, because that's like, it takes time, you know, and I don't want to waste time syncing assets on every build if they don't change, so I have it as a separate command. See, it's surprisingly slow copying over all the resources. Like, I don't have that many things in my assets folder, but it's actually surprisingly slow. You know what I was looking at the other day, actually? I was looking at the memory monitor for my game, and I don't really use that much memory for the whole thing. I mean, it's not like there's that much of the game done, but I only use, like, I think at most like 700 megs, which, I mean, it's kind of a lot, but also like not, you know, I could be using a lot more memory. But also the entire game is only like 250 megabytes. So like the download size, again, there's a lot of content not in the game, and that's with like everything uncompressed. Like I'm using like bitmap files instead of PNGs for now, just because it was simpler. I need to switch over to actually using like compressed image files for my textures later, but for now bitmap's fine. But yeah, very efficient project. I love it. Thanks. I honestly, it probably could be a lot more efficient, but I was surprised when I was looking at it. I was like, I don't know, usually I don't really pay too much attention to like my file sizes for things, because you know, like everybody has like space, you know, or not space, but you know what I mean, like RAM and like that kind of thing is not really an issue, and especially for like a 2D game, like, you know, it's gonna work. So it's not like I've been like crazy optimizing for like RAM usage or space, like just disk space, but I guess I've just been like, I don't know, disciplined enough that it hasn't gotten crazy. Oh yeah, right, it's not what I even wanted to do. I want to see the game. It should have a little floating block in the map if everything worked correctly. Oops, I don't even that. Wow, I'm tired. I tried to use my run command in my game terminal. Yeah, it looks like, okay, that actually updated properly. I can tell just off of the LiDAR outline here that did correctly update the map file. See, there's the little guy that we just added. Yeah, boom. I always feel so wasteful when I think back to Krieger. It was a Windows 32, Win32 standalone XE with no dependencies, exactly 997,280 bytes, and it was a complete playable DirectX game with pixel shaders, a Quake clone. Damn. If they can do that in 97,280 bytes, and I need a gigabyte, what am I doing wrong? Well, was it like literally written in assembly? You know? Like, what was it, like Roller Coaster Tycoon was built by, I'm really bad with remembering the names of devs, but built by a single guy, and he wrote everything in assembly, and if I remember correctly, it uses like very little memory. Let me see. Roller Coaster Tycoon memory usage. Look at that. Like, just 16 to 64 megabytes of RAM. That's insane. For Roller Coaster Tycoon, which simulates like thousands of park visitors potentially, you know, that's actually crazy. Yeah, Chris Sawyer, that guy was crazy. That guy, man, that's impressive. That's a really impressive project. Every time I like learn anything about it, it gets more and more crazy. It was written in assembly with procedurally generated assets, CPU loops, data structures, and RAM. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there you go. Assembly is like king. But like I don't know if we could do it today. You know, like assembly is a forgotten art. Like nobody, like the average person, the average developer is not gonna write better, more performant assembly than like the compiler would optimize for you. You know. I'm sure there's some wizards out there. I'm not. I can't do it. I gotta stick to C++ like a pleb. But for the people who are smart enough to do it and actually can compete with the compiler, you can do some fucking magic. All right, let's commit what we got before I lose all this code. What do we do? We added rudimentary game engine pausing, fix level editor to what? To actually save correctly. Boom. All right. Well, I think that's gonna be it for me today. I'm exhausted, but it was awesome hanging out with everybody. Thank you everybody for stopping by. We do this every Thursday on at 10 p.m. Yeah. Nice job. Take care, Alex. It was fun. Thanks, Corbin. Man, it was awesome to see you, dude. I'm just gonna drop for anybody who's watching. I'm gonna drop the Steam link. If you like what you saw, which you really didn't see much of it, but you know, games available for wishlist on Steam. I'm actively working on putting together that demo. Been working really hard on world building lately. I haven't touched any code for the past week, honestly, but I've been spending a bunch of time doing like world building. I'll give you guys a little quick snapshot of it, just so you guys can see what we're working with here. But I have like a world building board, and this is where I've just been planning out all the acts for the game. I don't want to give too much away, but like this is like my act 0 stuff, like literally the entry point to the game. A little flowchart there. I was planning on like the game that takes place on a lunar colony in a very specific crater on the surface of the moon. I've been reading papers, like NASA research papers, on like water ice extraction and shit like that, trying to make sure that everything is like as realistic and physically plausible as I can possibly get it for the game. So it's been cool. Stuff is feeling like it's coming along really well, but that's what I've been doing. I haven't been writing so much code lately. Today was probably the first day that I wrote code for the game in about a week. So, but anyway, it's been real. It's been awesome chatting with you guys. Thanks for everybody who showed. And I'll see you guys all next week. Have a good night.